by Enterprise Fitness.
Thank you all very, very much for coming. Absolute pleasure to have you all here to teach with you today my seminar, Eat Your Way to Abs. Just by a show, I'll just get these guys, they're just finishing off. Just by a show of hands, who travelled from interstate to get here today? Okay, so there's a few. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Okay, and I know there are a few people who came from about an hour away to get here. Who travelled more than an hour? Let's give these guys a round of applause. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for you all coming here today and sharing basically what I've been working on for the last, my whole life really. So I'd like to start today with a very simple little saying. I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, Laka eka ala kin. So give that a go. Just turn to the person next to you. Okay. Yeah. And in the main tradition, what that means is hello, other version of me. Okay. I just think that's a really good way to start the day, because often we look at people. I know there's a lot of competitors in the room who compete in bodybuilding, do sports model, etc., etc. And there are people who just want to, who come in just to get the weight loss information. They're not looking for, getting up on stage, winning titles. They just want to lose weight. And there's the people who come in to see and they just want to be healthy. So we often look at different people and we think that we can't do that. And of course you can. If you see it in someone else, then you must have the ability to do it yourself. But most people understand Australian rules football, right? Except for the guys from interstate, of course. They understand rugby. True? Or no one from Queensland? Okay. So for you guys, imagine this is a rugby field. But I'll draw it as AFL because most of us here are Melbourners. All right. So here's your goalposts. All right. I really like this analogy because if we start collectively, this whole class, if we went to the MCG today, and we walked from this side of the football field right up until this goal square, okay? So that whole distance there, which is a considerable distance, that represents the last 2 million years of human evolution, okay? Last 2 million years. So you've got to ask the question, what happened in the last 2 million years and how did we live? It was the last 40,000 years that really the sciences and arts and the things that I guess made us more civilized really developed, okay? But what happened and the way we used to do things is we ate things that were hunted, fished, gathered and plucked, okay? So we ate things from the ground, we ate things that were natural, basically. But we didn't have a food industry. Actually, we ate things that were hunted, fished, gathered and plucked, okay? Then in this basically goal square here, that represents the last 10,000 years of human evolution. Does anyone know what happened in the last 10,000 years? Agriculture. Who said that? Yeah, thank you. Exactly. Agriculture. So basically, that's when we introduced grains into our diet. Okay? Then this tiny millimeter, you can't even see it from where you're sitting here, that tiny millimeter of the football field. What that represents is the last 100 years of human evolution, okay, or de-evolution. So that represents canola oil. That represents margarine. That represents high fructose corn syrup. That represents your trans fats. That represents McDonald's, Hungry Jack's, all those other foods. 100 years ago, we did not have access to these foods, okay? The blueprint for health is very, very simple. Live like we did 2 million years ago, or eat like we did 2 million years ago. Eat things that were hunted, fished, gathered, and plucked. The other way I explain it to people is, who has a Mac at home? Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. So Christine just bought a Mac. Macs are great. If you're a Mac user, you understand. If you're not, you don't. But I'll move on. This Mac computer has a battery in it, okay, and it was designed for the Mac computer, okay. We could technically put a PC battery in that Mac computer, it would function, but the keyboard might not work optimally. The screen might flash on and off. We might not be able to get on our Wi-Fi. So in other words, it would run because it's an energy source, but it's not the optimal energy source for that battery, for that computer. Our factory-operated and factory-specified fuel for our bodies are things that are hunted, fished, gathered, and plucked. Very, very simple. These things, by comparison, especially grains, will probably represent depending on the genotype, will probably represent the 10 to 20% of your diet. Okay, these are the things that you play with, but the majority of people's diets will be made up with these things. And before I move on, I'll show you a very interesting book. I like to bring a stack of books with me to these seminars so I can, when people talk about books, people are visual and they need to see. But this is a book by Dr. Weston A. Price. Okay, this is basically the antithesis of what's taught in mainstream nutrition today. So the reason why this is significant, or this book is significant, is because Dr. Weston A. Price, what he did from the 1930s to the 1940s, is he went around to remote and basically untouched cultures and civilizations, and he asked the question, what makes these people healthy? Instead of the question that researchers today ask, and that's what makes these people sick. And what Weston A. Price was a dentist, and what he believed was that your teeth are a perfect reflection of how healthy that you are. Because when you're born, what happens is there's a number of cells, and basically those cells divide, the same cell structure, divides, makes up your spine, the other cells make up your teeth. And if you're familiar with chiropractic work, your spine is a reflection of perfect health. So he figured that if they have perfect teeth, they must have perfect spines, which is an indicator of perfect health. Okay? And he was actually looking for a vegetarian society, and he didn't find any. Okay? What he found was cultures who ate meat ate based on availability. That was it. So they were what you would call lacto-vegans, where people ate raw dairy, vegetables, etc., what came off the land. Most of it was it fluctuated throughout the seasons. Okay, no one had availability to the same foods every single day. If you looked at the Swiss, he was very heavily influenced by the Swiss, and they had very much a lacto-vegan diet, and they lived off raw milk, raw cheeses,